Sosocamo has quickly become one of the most exciting artists in the underground scene. His unique and melodic sound have made him stand out from the crowd, and there is one key thing that acts as the foundation for his recent success: his insane production. So today, we're going to break down the production techniques behind Sosocamo's sound, and cover what makes these beats so unique, and then use those same ideas to build our own Sosocamo inspired beat from scratch. The beat continues to get crazier as the video goes on. There's a ton of gems that you can apply to your own beats. So let's take a closer look at the melodic and dreamy production behind Sosocamo's sound. When you listen to Sosocamo's music, a few things immediately stand out. The first one is the amount of textures and ear candy throughout his music. It's probably one of the biggest reasons his production feels so dreamy and unique. Another thing you'll notice is his sound selection. He constantly blends digital sounds and effects with real instruments, transforming the sound into something unique. And his songs are always super melodic, and the drums have this unique bounce that makes you instantly recognize one of his songs. So if you want to recreate this sound, we have to start with the most important part, the melody. And after listening to a ton of his music, I knew that I wanted to start with something super melodic, like my favorite from him, What About Us? Something that guides the melody in here are the vocals. So to start things off, I grabbed this vocal from Midnight's Essentials. I found to be better using the vocals as a starter, because instead of trying to fit the vocal into a finished idea, you build everything around it, and then the whole track feels much more cohesive. For this type of sound, you also want a vocal with a call and response feeling, because that's something that Sosocamo uses a lot in his production.
I know you wanna dance with me. I know you wanna rock my body.
Now, I didn't want the vocal to sound too clean. Sosocamo's vocals are usually full of texture, so I loaded up Tone Flex with this preset that I made. It uses a little saturation, some tape, chorus, and this resampler, which essentially downgrades the whole sample rate of the vocal, giving the vocal a much more textured, imperfect type of sound. I also added a quarter note delay, which we'll talk about more later, because it's honestly one of the most important effects behind Sosocamo's sound.
I know you wanna dance with me. I know you wanna rock my body.
Alright, now it's time to build a chord progression. I wanted the chords to follow the same call and response idea as the vocal, just like you can hear in I Don't Mind. To build the foundation of the melody, I loaded up the synth pad from one of my kits. Synth pads are everywhere in Sosocamo's music, so it felt like the perfect place to start. I wrote a simple 5 to 6 chord progression, which I will explain in a second. If you're not familiar with music theory, don't worry, because this is actually way more simple than it sounds. The 5 and the 6 simply refer to the 5th and the 6th note of the scale, and they are the root notes of the chord. So to build up the first chord, the only thing that you have to do is you're gonna come to the 5th note, and then to make it a minor note, you have to skip 1, 2, and put the note in the 3rd. For the next part, you're just gonna skip 3 notes, so it's 1, 2, 3, and then you put it right here, 1, 2, and then put it on the 3rd, and then you have D sharp minor 7. For the next chord, it's a 5, 6, you're gonna put the root note on the 6th note on the scale, it's a E, and then for the major, you're gonna skip 3 notes, so it's 1, 2, 3, and put it right here on the 4th. Then you're gonna skip 2 notes, so it's 1, 2, and put the note right here. Then you're gonna skip 3 notes again, so it's 1, 2, 3, and then 4th. Then you have a E major 7th. Okay, but it's still missing something to bring tension to the chord progression. And essentially you want to bring tension because this keeps the listener engaged with the song and waiting for it to resolve. So, okay, so how are we going to bring tension? What I did, make a D sharp 6th. You're going to copy the first chord. Taking notes out of the scale brings this tension that I was talking about. So what you have to do is just take the note out of the scale. And then I took this note out of the scale. And here's the full chord progression. Now, we have a solid foundation for the melody, but it still feels a little too clean. And one thing I noticed after listening to a lot of Sosocamo's music is that he uses synth pads in almost every song. So I copied the same exact chords onto the synth preset from Midnight's Essentials, and this is what it sounds like without any processing. And this is a cool synth, but doesn't have this Sosocamo texture yet. For the purpose of this video, I wanted to show you how to get this synth sound only using free plugins. I use these 3 plugins to get my synth sound, but I will show you how to get with only free plugins, since Tone Flex isn't a free plugin. So the plugin that you're gonna use is Hardcore. Since this is basically the same thing, you can add guitar pedals, and Tone Flex is the same thing. You're gonna want this preamp kind of sound, so this is how it sounds with only the preamps. That is this tube drive, and then boost a little bit of the highs, put just a little bit of gain. See, this is the sound that you want, this crunchiness to the sound. This sound is good, but it's missing a cool element from Sosocamo's sound, that is chorus. And the best way to bring digital synth to life is by using chorus, and I love this chorus. It's Magic Switch by Baby Audio. It's completely free, and it gives you that Juno classic style chorus. Take a listen. A lot of Sosocamo's sounds also come from real analog hardware, and one of the reasons analog synths sound so alive, it's because they never are perfectly in tune, and digital synths don't do that, obviously. So one of my favorite tricks to emulate that is using pitch drift, also by Baby Audio, and it's also free. And for the sake of this video, I'm just gonna exaggerate on the settings a little bit so you can clearly hear what it's doing. Now listen to the synth in context to see how much of a difference all of these effects make. And now it's time to add one of the most important elements of Sosocamo's production, ear candy. If you don't know what ear candy are those production tricks designed to surprise and engage the listener, and you hear this sound all over Sosocamo's production. Because we build this melody around this call and response idea, we naturally left little pockets of empty space, and that's exactly where you want the ear candies to shine. The first ear candy that I wanted to add was already in the melody, because it's the vocals, but I wanted to add this cool trick with the delay that I recently learned, and you can actually hear this in Rich Report. Instead of using the vocal itself, I'm actually using the delay as the ear candy. Okay, let me just show you what I mean. So you have to use a delay that has the freeze option, and what you're going to do is click on the freeze button whenever you want the delay to freeze on a certain word. And this is the final result. After that, I went back to listen to Sosocamo's music to have more inspiration, and I came across Solace. And this song has this sound with a crazy delay that never seems to end. To recreate that feeling, I loaded up this preset inside Prophet 5V, and I wrote this simple run going up the scale. This doesn't sound like a cool ear candy yet, so we gotta do some processing. And the first thing that I did was add Magic Switch to make this sound more alive, then pitch drift to make it more analog. After that, I used Devil to add this little crunch, because that gritty texture is something that you hear all over Sosocamo's production. And finally, I added Valhalla Play to make the sound more bigger and fuller. And this is what I came up with. Sounds cool, but to bring this delay that never ends, I use this tone flex preset called Whisper Tone, and essentially it's delay with some saturation, and with that, you get this. Another key thing to Sosocamo's sound is the bounce. One thing you'll hear in almost every Sosocamo beat is percussion loops. They're usually pretty subtle, but they add so much movement. So I loaded up this percussion loop from Midnight's Essential, and instead of letting it play all the way through, I chop it up so it only plays when there's enough space in the melody. At this point, the beat was sounding pretty cool, but we need more variation. After listening to more Sosocamo songs, I love this guitar on Shot Color. One thing I love about that song is how simple the guitar melody actually is. I grabbed my nylon guitar and played the same chord progression with a little arpeggio at the end. By playing this very simple melody, we can go crazy with the delay. After that, I still needed a little more grid, so I loaded up Devil Lock with the mix around 25%, put in some stereo shaper to make it more wider, and a simple EQ to clean it up everything up. for this type of songs, sound selection is really important. Choosing the right preset, the right vocal, and even playing the right instrument can change your sound completely. Take a look of how this guitar would sound if I had used a VST with the same processing. Real instruments naturally have tiny imperfections that make everything feel more alive, and the VST just doesn't cut it. And I know that learning guitar takes a lot of time, patience, and practice, and not everyone has the time to do that. And that's actually one of the reasons I created Midnight Essentials. It's a collection of 9 kits packed with vocals, MIDI, instrument phrases, drums, percussion loop, and an analog bank full with these synths that I was talking about. And if you like any of the sounds that I've used in this video so far, they're all inside of Midnight Essentials. Take a listen of a few sounds inside of this kit.
I've been waiting for you. I didn't expect for things to be this way. No, I really didn't.
And if you want to get your hands on these sounds, you can use the code Sosocamo to get 40% off the kit, and the link will be the first thing in the description down below. But anyway, as I mentioned earlier, Sosocamo beats are incredibly melodic, and he often does that by using a synth lead. A great example of that is What About Us. So for the second section, I wanted to build a synth lead with that same call and response feeling from the rest of the idea. I loaded up this preset and came up with this synth melody. I used almost the exact same effects chain that I used on the weeknd synth earlier, but this time I also added H delay, which is probably my favorite analog style delay for synth leads. Take a listen. Now, if you listen to 200, you hear this really cool pitch bends. So I grabbed the pitch wheel on my MIDI keyboard and played with the pitch bends while I was recording. These tiny details just add so much character to the sound, and because the delay is already reacting to those pitch bends, everything feels much more alive. To transition into the next section, I also cut this guitar tail using the effects from the previous guitar recording, and instead of introducing a completely new sound, it helps connect both sections naturally. Take a listen. Using the exact same delay trick from earlier, I created a new, completely different vocal texture, and this is how it sounds. Now, there's only one thing missing before we jump into the drums, the bass. And one thing I noticed while listening to a lot of Sosocamo's music is that he constantly switches between 808s and sub or synth basses. For this beat, I wanted to go with the synth bass, so I loaded up this preset from my Midnight Essentials called Deep. Instead of trying to overcomplicate it, I just copied the root notes from the chords and put it into the bass. Sosocamo has one of the most unique drums I've heard in a minute, switching between these live drum sounds to minimalistic ones, more trap drums.
Go to the moon. Outside with my niggas, we doing the most. Grabs on the table, yeah, I been gone.
So for this beat, I wanted to combine all of the worlds basically. Play up a few drums from Midnight's Essentials and build this pattern. After listening to songs like Don't Panic and Favorite, I also noticed that Sosocamo switched between cleaner 808s and more distorted ones. So I wanted to do the same thing here. I loaded up two different 808s. One is clean and smooth, and the other one has a much more aggressive fuzz distortion. For the second half of the beat, I also swapped the rim for a clap, and it's a really small change, but it instantly makes the section feel fresh and new. Then I also added this live hi-hat loop to bring more of this live vintage sounds that I said earlier. And after that, our beat is finally finished. Again, every single sound I use on this beat comes from Midnight's Essentials. You can grab it by using the code Sosocamo for 40% off at the checkout. And let me know in the comments if you think I made justice to the insane Sosocamo production. Now, let's listen to the full beat.
I know you wanna dance with me. I know you wanna rock my body. Yeah, I know you wanna play. Yeah, I know you wanna play. I know you wanna rock my body. Yeah, I know you wanna play. Yeah, I know you wanna play.